I would be absolutely lying to you if I told you that I knew exactly what Brian Gutekunst was thinking or going to do when it comes to the draft, and especially day one of the draft. But I'm here to tell you that if Brian Gutekunst, unless he has his heart set on, and we know that typically he usually goes for best player available in the draft, or what he feels the best player available is in the draft. And if you're watching a lot of mock drafts, there's a lot of guys who potentially could fall to 23, but say there's a world where Emeka Ibuka falls to us at 23. We know the Packers are notorious for not drafting any sort of offensive weapons in the first round, typically. But this could potentially be the year Josh Jacobs, maybe he hears his cry for, hey, we need a number one type caliber type wide receiver. So say Emeka Ibuka falls to us with the 23rd pick. I can easily see a world if Brian Gutekunst is dead set on getting a wide receiver. I think regardless either scenario, if he's looking at the wide receiver position, I think he's going to be trading back in the draft, sending shockwaves across the entire NFL when it comes to here the Packers are hosting the draft. And then all of a sudden it comes up to their pick, and all of a sudden we're trading back in the draft. I can easily see a world where that happens. Why do I see that? Well, even if Emeka Ibuka is there, let's take a look at the top rated wide receivers. McMillan will not be available. I don't see Burden either available. Emeka Ibuka um, is one of those guys that could potentially fall to the Packers at 23, but I think the Packers would even pass up on Golden for a guy slated as the sixth best wide receiver to move back in the draft, maybe early second round even, to get a guy like Jaden Higgins. And I'm going to explain why I would love a guy like Higgins in Green Bay. Okay. So we all know that our deep ball threat, Christian Watson, he's going to be out for the majority of the season for all intensive purposes. By the time he gets back, we're probably going to deal with some sort of hamstring injury, all of that. I'm not knocking on him. He's just an injury prone type player, no fault of his. It's just who he is. So, Jaden Higgins, if you take a look at RS, and I really like this relative athletic score matrix. So this really doesn't measure the the current floor that he's at. It measures the ceiling. And this dude's athleticism is absolutely off the charts across the board. You look at just how big of a stud this dude. He's 6'4", perfect frame for what Gutekunst would want. Matt LaFleur, on this offense, he can stretch the field. He's certainly a deep ball threat. He's got the height. He's got the size. He's 214 pounds. He runs a pretty decent 40-yard, but he's a speedster. He can get down the field and he can stretch. He's got good size. This is easily a guy that I could see becoming maybe a number one caliber type wide receiver, maybe not as early as year one, but maybe year two. As far as the ceiling of Jaden Higgins, I really like it. I actually think he's got a better ceiling than T. Higgins, quite frankly. I would love the more research you do on this dude. I think this guy would be a perfect fit in Green Bay. Yes, I said that. Let's take a look at what Emeka Ibuka's RAS was. Okay, so not nearly as sexy as you can see right there. He's got an overall RAS score right there that you can see, but the vertical, all of that is the 40-yard. Everything about that is less than what Jaden Higgins would offer the Packers. And again, the ceiling is off the charts. I want you guys to leave your comments and let me know your thoughts there. So even if the Packers don't go the wide receiver route, I can easily see them going with a guy at defensive tackle, because I think when it comes to the edge rushers in the draft, I think the Packers can easily wait till round 3 to go and get an edge rusher. So even if they go a defensive tackle route, I could easily see them trading back as well, because I do think that I love Walter Nolan, and I really think this dude is a stud. Let's take a look at the interior defensive lineman rankings. And as it stands right here, you got two guys out of Michigan. Not a surprise there whatsoever with Graham and Grant out of Michigan. They're going to go in the top 15-ish, top 17. thereabouts. And then you've got Walter Nolan, who's slated to go 22nd, and that would be the Chargers pick right ahead of us. I don't see that happening. I actually see him falling a little bit, and I could see him going maybe even later around that 28th pick. So there are 27th, somewhere in that range. So I could see a world where even if they have their heart set on Nolan, they can trade back and still be safe to go get Nolan, in my opinion. I want you guys to leave your thoughts on that as well. It says right here, Nolan isn't the most polished interior defender, but he might be among the most physically gifted if he continues to grow in his pre-snap plan and hand usage. He can be an impactful, versatile defensive tackle with a high floor due to his strength and run defense. So the Packers departed, obviously, TJ Slayton, he's gone, but you got Kenny Clark, who's coming off of kind of a down year. You've got Devontae Wyatt, who could be potentially a free agent after this season. So getting a guy in there that has a pretty big ceiling there, and Walter Nolan, I would love and welcome that with open arms. I think the Packers are either probably going to go, they're going to go corner, defensive tackle, or wide receiver, but they could send shockwaves by going and drafting a wide receiver with their first pick, whether it's in the first round or early second round, late first round. Either way, I think the Packers are setting themselves up to trade back in the draft and build up the draft capital there and go and get some help at corner, go and get some help at edge, and wide receiver, defensive tackle. And who knows, maybe there's a world where Josh Simmons, left tackle out of Ohio State, maybe he falls to the Packers at 23. If that's the case, I certainly don't see a world where Brian Gutekunst passes up on that player as well. That would be a huge gift to the Packers at 23. Again, we're already set at left tackle. They don't seem to be in love with Rasheed Walker for whatever reason. I don't understand that. I really like Rasheed Walker. I've liked him since he's been there. I think the dude has proven to be a very good left tackle. He's not one of the better ones in the game, but he's certainly a guy that you probably don't have to throw a ton of money at. But who knows? Maybe the Packers are seeing that he's going to command a little bit of a price tag out there. So maybe they, save some money by getting a guy like Simmons who can develop over this year and then be ready come year two. I don't think I'd be too upset if the Packers did go that route if Simmons fell to them, because I think that dude is a freak of an athlete as well when it comes to the left tackle position. But I'd rather see them go other routes because I think they've got bigger needs, and I'd really like to see them address those needs sooner than later. Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, go Pack Go.